everyone, Letitia here, coming to you again this Thursday for another edition of my weekly Money Matters webinar series. And as I announced a bit earlier today, today's topic, I've decided to discuss travel insurance, the issue of travel insurance. We are living in some interesting times, as you all would agree, and one of the trends that we're noticing are more and more people working from home, and more and more people choosing to consider their living options. Now that more of us have the ability to work from home, work remotely, people are thinking, do I really want to live in a big city anymore? Do I want to move to a smaller city? Do I want to perhaps move out of province? Anthony, thank you. Or even out of country. My love, thank you, my love, thank you. Please have a seat right here, thank you. So I figured this would be a good conversation to have because it's been my experience, people don't really understand the limitations of their provincial health insurance programs, or they really don't think about it until, God forbid, they find themselves in a situation where they need help. And I do apologize, I haven't had a chance to prepare some slides today, but I'm just gonna have a pretty informal conversation, and I'll take any questions you guys may have, okay? So one of the things that comes to mind is, first of all, I just wanna clear the confusion around something I just said in my little preview video, namely that the Ontario government had removed any provision for out-of-country coverage from OHIP coverage. Now, as it turns out, there was a court case that the Ontario Snowbirds, or the Canadian Snowbirds Association, took to the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, and as of September 26th, I actually just saw this, I'm going to show you guys. As of September 26th of this year, they have now reinstated coverage for snowbirds. Okay, but I'll explain to you what the limitations of that are. So let me just share my screen with you. Share. Oh man, how do I go about this? I think I have to open it in the same browser window. Let me see. No. Okay. Okay. That's weird. Okay, I'm gonna have to open that article in the same browser that I'm using to share. I don't know if that's the case. Give me 1 second, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay. And I am once again at an internet cafe. We'll see how reliable the Wi-Fi is this time. Hopefully better than last time, okay? All right, I'm gonna share with you the article. So, there it is, okay. Ontario Superior Court orders province to reinstate out-of-country OHIP coverage. Court rules eliminating the program violates the Canada Health Act. So we gotta thank the Canadian Snowbirds Association for at least reinstating these provisions of OHIP coverage. So that being said, I just want to make you aware of the limitations. So up until now, for a number of months now, there have been no coverage provided by OHIP for out-of-country travel. So if you got hurt or sick while on a trip away, there was no coverage. Now they reinstated the previous level of coverage, which provides up to $400 Canadian per day for inpatient services. That means if you're hospitalized, God forbid, or up to $50 per day for emergency outpatient or doctor visits. And again, in some areas, this may be sufficient coverage. Now, one thing I want to make you aware of is that, unfortunately, it's not on a prepaid model. In other words, you as a patient, if you ever were to require assistance outside your province, if you're out of country, you'd have to pay out of pocket and then apply for reimbursement from OHIP. Okay, so even though it's good that they reinstated this basic level of coverage and it's better than nothing, let's see what else you could have access to. Now, a lot of people through their group insurance plan at work also benefit from travel insurance. And what I would encourage you to do, if you have travel insurance through your group plan, that's wonderful. I would encourage you to check how long of a trip they would cover. So oftentimes what I'm seeing is a maximum of 30 days per trip or maximum of 60 days per trip. So if you are planning a longer trip than that, or you're considering, so if you're an employee that now has the ability to work remotely, you'd be considered okay. You could well be covered by that 30 or 60-day provision of your group travel insurance policy. However, if your plan is to stay in this other country longer than those 30 or 60 days, you have the ability to put in force a policy, privately owned policy that would activate at the time when your group travel insurance would end. And same goes for policies that are offered through credit cards. So a lot of people have travel benefits on their credit cards. And a lot of people say, well, you know, I have travel insurance through my credit card. Oh, great. And I have, unfortunately, a personal story, not exactly personal, but it was an acquaintance of mine who was a digital nomad. He had the ability to work remotely. He's an IT entrepreneur. And he was actually traveling in Mexico and spending an extended amount of time in Playa del Carmen. And unfortunately, and prior to his trip, I said to him, hey, do you want to buy some travel insurance? And he's like, oh, no, I have it through my credit card. And at the time, I wasn't as aware as I am now about the limitations of some of these credit card policies. So what my friend didn't know was that his credit card was travel insurance was only good for trips up to 14 days. Well, as luck would have it, on day 17 of his trip, he took a fall. He ended up falling down some stairs, unfortunately, broke a leg, had to be in a Playa del Carmen private hospital at a cost of, I think the whole thing ended up being about $4,000. God forbid, nothing worse happened. Unfortunately, all of that he had to pay out of pocket at the time because, as he found out the hard way, he was no longer covered by his credit card travel insurance policy. So, and then since then we've discussed and he's been able to acquire different types of coverage. So, with that said, again, buyer beware when it comes to credit card policies. Now, I have heard of some Amex policies going as far as 90 days, Amex credit cards that are meant for travel. And again, you may have one of those travel credit cards. Again, just for your peace of mind, check the maximum number of days. More often than not, you're going to find that if you are thinking of staying in another province or another country for an extended period of time, credit card coverage will not be sufficient. So again, you may choose to benefit from the credit card policy for the first 14 days of the trip and then have your own policy that would pick up where the travel insurance of your credit card ends. Okay. Now, what else did I want to cover? So credit card policies, work policies. Now, a lot of people say, well, if I'm just, let's say I'm an Ontario resident and I'm just going to be moving or living temporarily in Quebec or in BC or another province, am I not covered by my provincial health insurance plan? And again, unfortunately, I have heard some horror stories. To give you a prime example, so as far as I understand, basic ambulance services are covered. Basic healthcare in a hospital would be covered. What's not covered would be things like an air ambulance. So I heard, a horror story of somebody traveling to Alberta. I think they were on a ski trip. Ended up being like a $21,000 air ambulance bill that the family was now being asked to pay because they were an Ontario resident traveling to Alberta, and things of that nature are not covered. So even if you're planning even if you plan on living in a different Canadian province, now again, I was just talking to a client who is currently choosing to live in Quebec, even though he is officially an Ontario resident, but he's temporarily living in Quebec. Now he has some coverage through his employer. And again, I would encourage him to check the limits of that coverage and if he's still covered under the travel provision of that policy while he's now in a different province. Again, better to err on the side of caution and know exactly what your coverage actually covers you for. Now, in case you're wondering, okay, well, maybe I don't have any of those. I don't have a credit card, or I'm planning on going on an extended trip, telecommuting from a different province or a different country. And you're wondering, well, what else can I do to make sure I do have coverage? Now, there are, as some of you may well understand, the United States has some of the highest healthcare costs anywhere in the world. And I have heard of stories where even somebody who had $1 million limit on their Canadian policy, they were now running out because they had suffered a stroke. They were in a hospital in the US at a cost of $30,000 per night, which is inconceivable. Um, so what so there are policies that you can purchase on a private basis, and there are insurance companies that I have access to. I'm a licensed insurance broker. I have access to a number of travel insurance companies. So generally, these companies specialize in travel insurance. It's called emergency medical assistance. Now, there are some add-ons that you can put on some of the policies, such as, if you lost your luggage, things like that. At the end of the day, those things are great to have. Nothing is as important as your own health and making sure that you have some level of protection if you're in a foreign country or what have you. So because medical expenses in the US are so much higher than in most other countries, most plans that you would be looking for in terms of travel insurance would either cover, so they would say worldwide coverage, including the US or excluding the US. If you know for sure that you're not going to be traveling to the US and you're not going to be even passing through the US, you can opt to have a policy that excludes the US. That way, those are generally less expensive. Okay. One other thing I would tell people is you are much better off purchasing the coverage before you've already left your home province. You have quite a few more options available in the marketplace. If you wait until you are already in the other country, you're going to find that premiums go up significantly and your options are a lot more limited, because now there's only a handful of companies that are comfortable offering coverage to somebody who's already left their home province. I don't know where that is, but I can just tell you as a broker, I've come across this a number of times. So as a broker, I have access, like I said, to a number of different companies. And one of the companies that I work with a lot is a company called Ingle Insurance or Ingle International. They're actually Canada's largest travel insurance brokerage. They represent a number of different travel medical companies. Now, because they've been in business this long, something like 40, 50 years, they have recently partnered with an insurer based out of the US, and they're now offering their own emergency medical insurance plan. So it's branded like Ingle Emergency Insurance, something like that. And again, that's something that you could have access to should you choose to. And I figured for today's call, people may be curious, hey, if I wanted to buy myself coverage, how much would something like this cost? And what are some of the options that I have? So with that said, let me see, first of all, by the way, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them, okay? Otherwise, I'm gonna go right now and I'd like to share my screen with you and just maybe run a sample code, give you an idea. Oh, I just realized that I'm still sharing that article with you guys, okay. Yeah, let me see if I can actually log into one of the travel insurance sites and give you guys an idea as to what some of the premiums may look like for a plan. Now, when you're shopping for travel insurance, you have the option of buying what's called a single trip plan or a multi-trip annual policy. Now, if you were somebody that's a frequent traveler and likes to take short trips, that's a different story, and that's where a multi-trip annual plan policy would be applicable. And that's the type of traveler I was previously. Now, in this day and age, again, if we're talking about something like an extended stay, you're probably not going to be needing a multi-trip annual policy. You're most likely going to be shopping for a single trip type coverage. Now, if you have an idea that, you know what, I'm going to stay no more than 2 months or no more than 3 months, I want to just test the water, see how I like it in this other country or other province, then you can buy for that specific period. As you will see, the maximum length of time available with most policies is 180, 182 days, okay? And that coincides with what ends up being like most country's policies when it comes to international travelers. So, for example, for Mexico, you could come here with a Mexican passport, sorry, with a Canadian passport and stay for up to 180 days. After 180 days, you would have to leave the country, or you need to, by that point in time, either apply for residency status or make some other arrangements. But bottom line, a policy of up to 180 days would cover you even for the longest stay that you could foresee in this other country. Now, if you end up maybe staying on a residency permit or let's say a work visa or some other kind of arrangement in another country, then we would be looking at what we would call an expat policy. And there are other types of policies out there, and I'll show you guys. I do have access to those as well. And by the way, guys, it doesn't cost you any extra to put in place a policy through me versus you going directly to the company. The premiums are exactly the same. The companies that I work with simply reward us for bringing them customers, and essentially a portion of the premium, a small portion I should say, goes to as a referral fee to someone like myself. Okay, just so you guys know. Okay, let me just look up my login info to the to one of the companies. I apologize, guys. It's just been so crazy. Unfortunately, well, some of you have been watching some of my other live streams. You know what we've been dealing with over here. All right, 1 second. Okay. I'm using the Brave browser, and it doesn't store any of your login info. Like, it's super private, but that means I have to enter it every single time. Okay. Okay. All right. I'll share with you guys my screen. Travelers. All right. All right. So this is a sample of the plans that I have access to here. So Canuck Voyage is the plan I was telling you about. It's Ingalls own plan. So as you can see, they partner with this US-based insurer called MSH International, who themselves have been around for quite a while. I'll have to double check like how long, but the Ingalls themselves have been in business for over 40 years. They would not have partnered with a company they didn't feel was, so they're literally one and the same company right now, but they're using their co-branding, okay? So the kind of voyage plan will cover people for trips up to 100 days. As you can see, now it says multi-trip annual plan options. Let's see what happens if we try to do a single trip of up to, let's say, 180 days. Let's see if it will allow us to hold that long. Now, one of the considerations that you may want to keep in mind, if you're somebody who is very active and into adventure sports, I want to make you aware that most policies will exclude that. So if you are specifically somebody who is going to be doing, as you can see, things like, paragliding, bungee jumping, out of bounds skiing, like really adventure sports, there are some companies out there that will include that, but that's something that you're going to want to be aware of, that most policies, and as you can see here, for example, excluded sports, all professional sports are excluded, rock climbing excluded, hang gliding, parachuting, bungee jumping, skydiving, any motorized racing. So most policies would exclude this. Now, scuba diving, it's something a lot of people like to do when they go, especially to a warmer destination. As you can see, as long as you are doing it as part of an organized tour with a certified instruction and not going any deeper than 30 meters, that would be included. Other policies, so these are a couple of the other plans that we have access to. Again, they exclude things like even snowboarding. Wow. No, out of bounds skiing. So we're talking about what's called backcountry skiing. So again, we're talking about adventure sports. If you're going to be at a location where it's just a normal ski hill, that's not an issue. Again, professional sports included whitewater rafting, except so you'd have to check with the policy that you're getting in terms of the exclusions, but just be aware that most policies will have an exclusion for adventure sports. We have, I believe, with the TUGO policy. TUGO is another big provider of travel, emergency travel policies, they have an add-on that you can purchase that will include adventure sports, or at least some of them. Okay. Um, so to give you an idea, so again, with these guys, they say in terms of the multi-trip annual, the maximum is up to 100 days. Let's have a look here. Let's say if we want to insure a 35-year-old male, just to give you an example. By the way, gender doesn't really make a difference when it comes to these premiums. So I often wonder why they even listed. But let's say we have somebody that's born in, let's say, where is it today? Today's date, let's say 15th of, okay, September, not 2020, let's say 1980 or something. Let's say 1983. I don't know if that's 35 or 30. I can't do that right now. Okay. All right. So let's say September 14. Let's say state, province of residence, Ontario. Number of additional applicants. This would be if you wanted to include a spouse or a child. Unfortunately, I don't see any availability for that, meaning any discounts being offered. In terms of the insurability, as you can see, these policies are available all the way to age 80. And one of the things you're going to see on all travel insurance policies is not be traveling against the advice of a physician. And this brings me to another point that I feel it's important to make, especially if you are somebody of a certain age. I would say even young as 45, 50 plus. If you haven't been for a general checkup anytime recently, and you're planning an extended trip out of country, my recommendation is that you go and get a checkup done before you leave. We don't want any surprises. I have heard of horror stories where a gentleman in his 50s, again, was snowbirding in Arizona. You know, he was an Ontario resident. He was spending some time in Arizona, had a heart attack while in Arizona. And he had a travel insurance policy. The insurer tried to deny coverage. And I mean, last I checked, he was in court with the insurance company. But what they claimed was that a person of that age should have gone to a doctor. So the gentleman hadn't been to the doctor in years. So he had no idea that how his blood work was and that he was a high risk for a heart attack. So, you know, just to err on the side of caution, again, if you have the opportunity before your trip to go for a medical checkup, if you haven't had one done in the past year, I would say, that's always a good idea, especially if you're somebody of a certain age. You never know. We don't want any surprises, and you don't want to be denied coverage based on the fact, or even for that to be a question, you know, oh, how come somebody who's 55 years old hasn't been to the doctor in years and goes on an extended trip out of country? So essentially the insurance company was arguing that this person should have not been traveling in their current state of health, that they should have been attending to their health. Maybe being on some blood thinners or, you know, whatever the case may have been. Bottom line, he ended up incurring like very high medical costs in the US, and he was still, you know, in this, you know, the insurance company was trying to deny the claim. So you don't ever want to be in that sort of situation. So, and again, obviously basic exclusions: not being diagnosed with a terminal illness, not be experiencing new or undiagnosed symptoms. These are, you know, so you have to declare that's not been the issue. This particular policy for clients ages 60 to 80 doesn't cover trips for more than 35 days. Now, again, we have other policies that will cover that. Again, there's a basic health declaration for older clients, typically ages 60 plus. There are a number of medical questions that have to be answered. For this time, we're going to just say, you know, confirm that all applicants are eligible. All right, and we're gonna do, in this case, again, just because we're talking about extended trips out of the local area, let's say we're gonna be traveling starting today, or we want coverage starting today, let's say for up to 6 months, which would bring us to April of 2021, okay? Zero, I believe that's April, correct me if I'm wrong, but okay, it will count the number of days. And by the way, these policies, literally the premium is calculated on a daily basis. So they don't go by month, they go by day. And the premium is by and large based on the client's date of birth, the client's age. So let's say this client wants to go to Mexico. To give you an idea, that's a common popular destination these days. Well, it always has been, but in terms of potential extended stays. Question is, are you traveling through the US? We're going to say no to that question. I believe if you answer yes, it's not a big deal, because incidental travel, like if you had a stopover in the US, you'd be covered for up to 4 days. My recommendation is, if you can avoid it, avoid the US. If you can fly direct, always better. Just don't deal with US. That's just like personal side notes, okay? Now, as you can see, all policies include a deductible. Deductible means how much you'd have to pay out of pocket per claim. I would only look at this if, let's leave it as zero deductible. If the premiums are not within a range that you're comfortable with, then we could look at adding a deductible, meaning that with every incident, you'd have to pay the first, in this case, let's say $250 out of pocket or what have you, right? We're gonna leave it as zero deductible. So as you can see, for a 6-month trip, the premium with zero deductible would be 444 Canadian dollars. And this is for a policy that covers you up to $7 million for the entire duration of the trip. Now you may wonder, well, maybe I don't need to, maybe I'm not gonna go for 6 months. Maybe I'm only gonna go for 2 months, okay. So instead of December, instead of October, maybe we're gonna make it October, November, December, let's say 2 months, okay. I'm gonna click on complete application just to actualize. Nope. Let's go back. Oh man, I don't know if it still has it that you're traveling for 6 months. Let's just, yeah, that's something about the cash. Let's just see again. So let's say this person, but anyway, bottom line, I would say you can just divide that because the premium is per month. So if it was like 444 for 6 months, divide that by 6 roughly. So you're looking at, and that's for a 35, 36-year-old client. Premiums are not going to be much different. Now, I'm going to give you guys just a heads up, okay? Because I mentioned to you that if you purchase a policy before you leave the country, it's cheaper and you have more options. So once again, if that was 444 for 12 months, for 6 months, divided by 6, you're looking at about $74 a month, okay? Now, this is very ironic. I'm currently out of country myself. I left in a hurry, and I had the multi-trip annual policy, but that had already expired. I thought I was still covered by that. My son is still covered under a multi-trip annual policy. However, again, it's only a certain number of days. Right now, because I'm already out of country, my options are more limited. I'm not even able to give you a quote for what it would be. I had to get a custom quote done, okay? And between my son and I, we're looking at about $200 a month. So it's at least a third or more. I know, it's just, I'm actually embarrassed. I'm the one giving you guys advice, and I'm the one that I forgot, not forgot, I left in such a huge hurry, and I knew better. I knew I could still purchase this living out, but this is the situation I'm in right now, that I'm gonna have to buy one of these more expensive policies, and I'm gonna have to do it. Now, the good news is, I was told that I didn't have to buy for the whole, if I'm going to stay here for, let's say, for 3 months or 4 months, I don't have to buy the entire amount at the time. You could buy the policy for a month, and then provided that there's been no claim, and provided that since then there's no insane travel advisory against international travel, and unfortunately this is a very fluid situation, as you can appreciate, I would have the ability to renew that policy. Now, for this particular policy that I just showed you, technically you're supposed to, it says here that you're supposed to be covered. Look what it says: confirm that all applicants are eligible. It says that you're supposed to be purchase coverage for the entire duration of your trip. Now, and this is something I'm going to double check with the brokerage, but it says here purchase coverage for the entire duration. Now, if you're buying a one-way ticket and you're not sure how long you're going to be away for, you may again say, well, I think I'm going to stay for 30 days, but I'm not sure. I may stay for 2 months. So what I'm going to double check with them with regards to this less expensive policy is that if after the 30 days you decide to stay for an additional month, you'll be able to still renew that, provided, and again, this is always the case, provided that no claims have been made or no significant claims. Like if you've just gone to the walk-in clinic, something like that, they may be willing to ignore. But if it's something major, chances are you're no longer, yeah, my love, we're gonna be just, yeah, my love, please give me a couple of minutes, okay? I'm almost done, my handsome. I know, my love, thank you. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so bottom line, better off purchasing it before you leave your country. Now, if you've already left the country, there is one other policy that I have access to, and this is where I'm looking at for myself right now, because the quota is provided by the only of the three plans that I have access to through Ingo, only the Alliance plan. Let me see if I can still, I may not be sharing the proper screen. Yeah, it is still sharing the right screen. Okay. Only the Alliance plan is still available now that I've already left the country. And again, it's significantly more expensive than what this one would have been. Now, as I mentioned, if you're going to be, if you're already out of the country, or you're going to be on a stay longer than 180 days, okay, you're going to maybe get a work visa in a different country or some other kind of visa, but you're still not yet covered by that country's own insurance plan, or you just want to give yourself access to better healthcare, more options, okay? There is another company that I'm affiliated with called International Medical Group. And what they do is they actually specialize in expat policies. So they will offer coverage for up to 2 years for people traveling outside of their country, home province, however you want to look at it, okay? I again brought up their screen, but I have it open on a different browser. Let me see if I can possibly share that with you guys. Give me 1 second. Oh, actually, yes, it allows me to do that. Okay. So with International Medical Group, they have something called Patriot Travel Medical Insurance. These guys are like a long-established US-based insurer. Okay. So as you can see, they will give you coverage for up to 24 months. Now, the issue with them, though, again, the limits are not quite as generous, far less generous than with the plans we were just looking at. So and if you wanted comparable coverage, you're going to be paying a lot more. So it's going to be, it's a choice between, okay, paying a higher premium with someone like Alliance, but having, 10 million of coverage, if you really want that more, or that much, or paying a lower premium for a company that will give you, for example, with these guys, you can get as little as $100,000 worth of coverage for the duration of your trip. Now, depending on where you are, you may feel like that's sufficient coverage. I would want to give myself probably better coverage, like more coverage than that. Oh, I see this is my producer coding portal, country of citizenship. Okay, anyway, I don't really want to go into the details here because this is very detailed, but running a quote on their website, I can tell you they were cheaper than Alliance. So for a multi-month policy, for like a 6-month policy for myself alone, they were going to be around $250 US, but that was for only 100K worth of coverage. So again, if I want to give myself access to more than that, you end up paying, you're probably better off getting the Alliance plan, even if it's cost like $100 a month Canadian or 150 Canadian. Again, best piece of advice I can give you, don't do as I did. Get your coverage before you leave. Look into your options before you leave. Now, if you choose to buy a plan for 6 months, let's say they tell me that, no, you're not going to be able to renew because it says right there that you're buying coverage for the entire duration of the trip. So typically they're looking for somebody that has a beginning date and an end date. But let's say you're going to be staying, you don't know exactly when your end date is, and you don't feel comfortable committing for 6 months. Or let's say you do pay for 6 months upfront, but then for whatever reason you decide to return to your home country sooner. One thing I can give you for sure is that they would refund you. As long as you can prove that you are now back in your home country, the company will refund the duration of the policy. So let's say you bought a policy for 6 months, you only stayed 2 months, they would give you a refund, okay? Now, if for financial reasons you're not comfortable to committing to the premium for 6 months, again, I will make sure I will ask them and I will post a follow-up comment. I'm going to wait to hear from them whether you can do the same thing as with the Alliance policy. Can I buy 1 month at a time and renew it? The risk you're taking with that is that if you forget to renew it, then you may find yourself in a gap of coverage, and then yeah. In fact, I actually have to wonder whether they would even be willing to renew, because that policy, technically for the Canal policy, you have to be inside Canada when you purchase it. So I'm actually pretty sure they wouldn't allow you to just renew it on a monthly basis, now that I'm thinking, because I know for sure you have to be in Canada when you're buying it. I will still ask the question, you know, maybe at the initial start of your trip, you were in Canada, but now you're already in a different country. And before the end of your current policy, you decided, you know what, I'm extending my trip. Would you guys be willing to give me an extension for another month? I will get that answer for you guys and I'll let you know, okay? Because of course that would help with affordability. Worst case scenario, like I said, even if you were to buy for 6 months and then you decide I'm only staying 1 month after all, I don't like it here, whatever the case may be, and you come back to your home province, the balance of the days would be refundable. You just have to show them your flight confirmation. This is my flight. I already, you know, this is my ticket. I've come back to Canada. No problem. They will give you a refund. So, guys, that's pretty much. These are the main points I wanted to cover today. Again, it would have helped if I had slides and so on, but I hope you can forgive me this time. It's been a bit of a crazy past few days. I'm going to look right now to see if there are any questions, okay? And thanks everyone for listening, for watching. Okay. Okay, I don't see any questions as of yet. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching again. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me via, I guess, Messenger, or you can email me at info@mavenwealth.ca. That's MAVEN wealth.ca. Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the week, and I will see you again in the next few days. Okay. Blessings. Take care, everyone.